As a full-blown adult committed to growing your online audience, posting TikToks can feel like being a prospector, specifically the old bearded kind that crawled out of the woodwork for the tail end of the California gold rush, all hunched over and dirty looking. The generational animosity you encounter in your content research does nothing to ease that feeling.
Millennials are so embarrassing, and it's so fucking
And if you haven't
annoying.
done work
This
cultivating a thick skin, you could take it to heart and regress in your content, adopting Gen Z colloquialisms that sound grotesque coming out of your mouth.
Bear with me for a minute, this is gonna slap.
Or maybe you fall into the sentimentality camp, crying while you try on that teenage look filter, mourning lost years that, for me, belong in the past. It's off-putting seeing older creators kowtow to increasingly artificial standards, but it's not at all surprising given our culture's fear of aging. Something I am not immune to, but will be resisting starting now in the spirit of this installment. One thing artists gone content creators have at their disposal in confronting the indignities that come with aging is the drive to create. Interviews conducted by Columbia University found that out of a sample of 213 New York-based artists between the ages of 62 and 97, the majority agreed on two things: that they were satisfied with their lives and that they would never stop creating, as that would be tantamount to retiring from life. And that's just one study. There's plenty of ongoing research to suggest that creativity is the key to healthy aging, whatever that means. I admit to being a product of the dominant culture, so I'm not gonna go as far as to pitch mental and physical decline as healthy, no matter how natural it is. But what I can do is replace the word healthy here with graceful in the context of how your online persona ages. And if it sounds like I'm conceding to social media and the superficiality it champions, it's because I am. As humans, we will always be redefined by our technology for better or worse, and it's second nature to want to control how we present ourselves to the world. People have always invented stories for themselves. Social media has just democratized the publishing of those stories, and it's only natural that most of those are gonna suck. As de Tocqueville said, democracy is fatally biased toward mediocrity. And that's beside the point. You can be a mediocre creator all you want and still aspire to grace. You know, nobody wins at this. All you can hope for is to lose gracefully. As to what grace is, I do have trouble defining it, but I know it when I see it, and I have a rough idea for how to cultivate it in myself, or at the very least in my midlife content. And it all boils down to some attempt at artistry, and this may be a bit obvious, but acceptance. Perhaps you've noticed the human tooth necklace I wore for this installment, for the sake of allegory. Check it out. Yeah, as I wear it, I can just envision an old man struggling to adjust to his new dentures, reconciling with the now barren landscape that is his mouth through jewelry design. I'm not sure that's how or why this piece came into being, but you get the point. Something of highly subjective beauty can be born through the act of transcending loss.
Where did you get that?
My cousin Matt gave it to me. I told you that.
Where did he get that?
I didn't ask. So as we all know, aging goes hand in hand with loss in almost every sphere of life. You got infirmity, incontinence. If you're anything like me, an actor in your mid-30s, diminishing and or less agreeable roles in teen shows and films, the list goes on. Yeah, age acceptance requires that you come to terms with these losses, but also learn to appreciate the losses that lighten the load. One perk to aging I see a lot of older creators passing up is being jaded, e.g. numb to transient fads and younger people's frenzied adherence to them. As you age, you have less to gain from piggybacking onto these trends, and thereby less to lose being something approaching yourself, unadorned, unfiltered, and uncool. And there is a market for this stuff. As David Shields points out in his book, Reality Hunger, our culture is obsessed with reality precisely because we experience so little of it in what we consume. Ideally, getting older should mean being a realer version of yourself as you've spent more time in your own skin and you've had more time to uncover what approaches to culture and social life do and do not come natural to you. That's a process of elimination that amounts to finding yourself. If user-made content is the new folk art, as Shields attests, older content creators should feel freer in refining their own idiosyncrasies in their work rather than clinging to the vogues of youth. So leaning more Leonard Cohen, less Leonardo. And people will tell me that I'm not in the best position to make fun of Leonardo's dating habits, being that my girlfriend is 9.5 years younger than me. But you know, I've gone over this. Rachel reads at an Ivy League level, and we will have to see come September when she turns 26, but I don't plan on trading her in for a younger model. You'd have to ask her, but I feel like our connection eclipses the age gap. And yeah, Ashton Applewhite, for one, would applaud us. In her book, This Chair Rocks, a manifesto against ageism, Applewhite calls for the dismantling of the notion that we have the most in common with people our own age. And in theory, TikTok can help on that front too. As one Wired article points out, hobbyists can meet under hashtags no matter where they're from or how old they are. And that leads us to the next tier of acceptance you'll need in order to age gracefully on TikTok, and that's accepting the medium itself. After you've come to terms with the fact that you're a 35-year-old man, now it's time to accept that you're unironically on TikTok. If you can't do this, it will cheapen your work, stunt its evolution, ultimately corrupt your spirit, and you'll likely fall into the codger camp, like a dead-eyed coach who's too hung up on his glory days to fully occupy his current position at Renfrew Middle School. As neo-impressionist Camille Pissarro said, observe that it's a great error to believe that all mediums of art are not closely tied to their time. As an artist, you should be able to adapt to the era while retaining your voice. So as long as you're alive and creating, it shouldn't matter how dystopian and foreign things feel to you. It's still technically your time. Yeah, if you need more convincing on that front, you can try thinking in line with Maggie Kuhn, founder of the Grey Panthers movement, who argued that in the vanguard of social change, older people are society's futurists, testing out new instruments, technologies, ideas, and styles of living. So let's say you're a seasoned artist with rigid sensibilities who has ended up compartmentalizing your creativity, reserving scraps for video sharing apps because apps are for lesser forms. I'm arguing that that's a disservice to your image and ultimately the platform's potential, when you could be on TikTok raising the bar or doing the healthy thing and avoiding it altogether. Yeah, if you're going to post on and engage with a cultural powerhouse, do it right and bring your A game. Remember that all the greats were polymaths who didn't shy away from different mediums, and they were surrounded by mouth breathers. So yeah, lean more Leonardo, Da Vinci in this case, less Lenny from Of Mice and Men. That said, and I think I've covered this, there's no need to aspire to greatness here. Masters and masterpieces are dead designations, and the greatest artist of our time, by my reckoning, is best known for his work as a server at an IHOP in Mesa, Arizona. Being yourself in your work, or as close to yourself as you can get, should be enough, being that being yourself is probably the hardest thing anyone can ever do. If you manage it, your work will automatically be more original, thereby scratching an itch that you inherited from Romanticism, your need to embody a unique individuality. And in creating work that feels natural to you, you put yourself in a position to uncover more of yourself, being that creativity is self-confrontational. If you're afraid to dig deep because you think you'll come up empty or discover a self that is unworthy, know that that is not unique to you. Take it from Shields when he says that it's by remaining faithful to the contingencies and peculiarities of your own experience and the vagaries of your own nature that you stand the greatest chance of conveying something universal. And again, if you're a creator who feels too old to keep up online, forget about keeping up. Think along the lines of Spinozan or Taoist ethics as abridged by author John Gray. The good life is not shaped by your feelings are shaped by how well you've realized your nature. Okay, yeah, so be an artist, accept the medium, and be real. I think that's it as far as what you can do to cultivate grace on your digital path to death and obscurity. And if you found this insightful in any way, I ask that you share it on all of your social media platforms. Or if that request strikes you as shameless and or at odds with the message here, you could just subscribe. Thank you and happy aging.